Hello guys, I hope everyone has gone through the coding questions of this week. So here is the first problem. There'll be an integer that will be given and you got to represent it as the sum of Fibonacci series numbers, and the number should not be consecutive and they should not be repeated, and the representation will be printed in a pattern like this. Okay, so it seems confusing, but when you just be clear with it, there'll be a number and you have to represent the number as sum of only Fibonacci series numbers. So there'll be a Fibonacci series, right? So it will have some numbers. We have some numbers in the Fibonacci series. We have to use only the numbers in Fibonacci series to represent the given integer. Okay. That is, if we sum up all the numbers of the Fibonacci numbers, you should resolve the given integer. Like, it might be quite confusing, but the problem statement is here. For example, if 64 is given, it can be represented as 55 8 plus 1. So 55 8 and 1 are numbers in a Fibonacci series. You have to represent the integer 64 only using the Fibonacci numbers, such that the number should not be consecutive and it should not be repeated. So that's the only constraint. And the given, and then if we found the numbers, then we have to print in a particular pattern. So this particular thing, like this problem statement is quite known as the Zeckendorf theorem, and now we are gonna solve it using Python. And this week we are gonna do it in a different way, like we are gonna use it using user-defined functions. So which makes our code quite neat and clean. So in this week we are gonna see how to do it. First, I'm just giving statement to get the integer from the user, and I'm just gonna pass this integer to a user defined function called print with pattern as an argument. So it goes like that. And in Python, wherever you are calling the function should be defined above the statement where it is called. Like, if I am calling over here, it should be the function should be defined above the particular line anywhere else, okay, but not below it. That's the only condition. So def print with pattern and n. So in this I'm gonna print the pattern, but I have to know what are the numbers, nearest Fibonacci numbers of the particular given integer to represent. So I'm just gonna use it, this function to print the pattern. Okay. And this particular list will contain all the Fibonacci numbers that we are gonna find. And while n is greater than 0, I'm gonna call another function called nearest num, and I'm gonna pass this n, and this function is gonna return some value, and I'm gonna store it over here, store it in a variable called f, and I'm gonna append this f in the list called ants. Okay, so now let us define the function nearest num. So this function will generally do the logic of Fibonacci series. So if n is equal to 0 or n is equal to 1, it will just simply return n value. Okay. Oops. Else there will be the same logic, that is in Fibonacci series, right? This third integer will be the sum of the previous two integers, and the series goes on. Whatever the number is, it will just sum up the previous two integers and the number will be formed, right? So basically I'm gonna give three base variables, that is f1, f2, f1, f2 and f3, and this contain 0, 1 and 1. Since 0 and 1 are the starting positions in starting values in Fibonacci series, the third value will be obviously will be 1, since 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. And now I'm just checking if f3 is lesser than or equal to n to find the nearest Fibonacci number to a particular past value. The past value is over here, okay? And I'm just doing the function f1 is equal to f2 and f3 is equal to 3 and f3 is equal to f1 plus f2. And here I'm returning the value of f2. Yeah. And here n will be n minus here, so that the loop doesn't go infinite. I have to answer mine. So let us now print the value of and, so that to check whether we got the particular logic, then we'll go into the pattern stuff. The test case 1 is 64 actually, the values will be 5, 8 and 1, yeah, right. The test case 2 is 10 and the values will be 8 and 2, yeah, right, pretty much good. So next we have to work on the pattern. So you can see that if there are three numbers found, the first number will be the first row and the second number will be the second row but with a space in before, and the third number will be third row but with 2 spaces before. And this particular pattern will be repeated in the reverse manner in the second part. So we just split up this pattern into 2 parts. The first half will be this and the second part will be this. Okay. First we'll solve the first half. This I'm going to do in this function itself, because I can't use these variables out of this particular function scope. There's something called scope, right? You can just if you declare some variables in a particular function or loop, you can just use a particular variable only in a particular function or loop. There is nothing but your scope of that particular variable, right? So since I have defined the variable called ans over in print fib pattern, I can only use that ans variable in this particular pattern. But if you want to use that outside of the scope, you can declare the particular variable as global and you can use it anywhere in your program, right? For int range of len of ans. So first I'm gonna print the space. So first row will have only 0 spaces and second row will have 1 spaces, right? So and then concatenating the number. So since I can't concat a string with a integer, I have to convert this ans.i into string and I'm converting. So the first pass is over and the second part will be the reverse printing. So the range will be len of ans minus 1 comma minus 1, since I have to also include this 0th index, and since it's the reverse, I am just giving step as minus 1 and the same logic. Yeah, into this. They're pretty much done. Let's check whether this program works. I'm giving the test case 64. Yep, satisfied. And the test case is second is 10. Oh, yeah, we have done. I guess you guys are clear with this question. You have this just a function based approach to this problem. You can also try without using function, but I gotta teach you guys a different approach how to use functions in your program, so I just choose this. Okay, so let's go into the second problem. So the second problem would be we have to print the product of 2 rows. So the matrix will be given such that the rows and columns are known, and the second input will be which 2 columns I have to print the product. So they say 2 and 4, I have to print the product of 2 second row and 4th row. Okay, so the second row means this is the first row, this is the second row, okay, and this is the 4th row. such that I have to print the product of xth row and the reverse of the yth row. That is, I have to print the second row into the reverse of the fourth row. So I guess you get it. Now let us just dive into how to solve it. So first we have to get the R and C values. So R comma C is equal to map of, since I have to get the input in a single row, I'm using map function dot split. Okay, now I'm gonna get the matrix input. So let's say the matrix is stored in a variable called A, list of map of n comma input dot split. So this is one kind of thing. This thing will be repeated for r iterations, right? Then you have to get the input for r rows. So you can also give over here like constraint column C, that is you can only get C number of columns are input. For example, if you give C is equal to 3, you can get only 3 values in a row. Yeah. So next I'm gonna get the x comma y value of int comma input dot split. Now I'm gonna print the product. So for in range of C, so since I have to I got 2 rows and I'm gonna print the product of 2 rows corresponding column values. For example, they have said to reverse the white row no matter what, but the logic remains the same. And I'm gonna print 4 into 3, 5 into 2 and 6 into 1. So I'm gonna do a product column wise, right? So I'm gonna iterate my for loop with a C variable. Okay, so next I'm gonna print the values. So if x will be the second, in x is equal to when x is equal to 2, it doesn't mean the index value is 2. The index value is actually 1. Okay, since the index starts from 0, you can't say the second row will be the index is equal to 2. It's actually x minus 1 of I into, now I'm gonna reverse the particular. So the values of I will be C minus I minus 1. So since I have to reverse the yth row, it will be C minus 1 minus I. Yeah. And I have to print it in the same rows and I have to give n is equal to, I guess, n done. I'm gonna print the R and C values and I'm gonna give 7, 10, same, the second in this case I'm giving 4, 5, 8, 11. It's kind of hanging. Next 3, 6, 9, 12. Since my lock has hung, I have given an extra enter over here, so it's showing an error. One, 4, 7, 10, 2, 5, 8, 11, 3, 6, 9, 9 and 12. Now I'm gonna give x and y values 2 and 3. So the values will be 24, 45, 48 and 33. Yeah, pretty much good. So I can give you random values, there is no issue. So let us now discuss the same question in C language. So the logic remains the same and the approach is gonna be the same. I'm just gonna do some changes in the structure of the syntax with respect to C. Okay, so I'm gonna follow the same function approach for the first question as I did in Python. So first I'm declaring the header file, that is include std io.h to get inputs from the user, and then I'm having a function called void main, or you can also have int main. Int main means you gotta return a integer value. Void main means it doesn't return any value, right? So that doesn't make any difference. You can also change. If we are using int main, I'm gonna return any value. It could be 0 or 1 or whatever. So let it be 0. Okay. And now I'm gonna get the value from the user. So let us declare a variable colon as integer type. I'm gonna get the value from user by scanf, and I'm gonna pass this integer to a function called print fib pattern. Okay, now as I said earlier, wherever you call the function definition should be above the function calling if you didn't declare it before, right? So since I didn't declare it before, I'm just defining my functions before calling it. Like if I am calling print fib pattern over here, I have to define the function fib pattern anywhere else before it. Okay, so I'm gonna define the function print fib pattern over here and passing the argument int n. So let us now have an integer array to store all our answers. Let it be kind of this, and then assigning a while loop, getting n is equal to 0, and the same thing I did. I'm just having a variable called f, so I have to declare this f right now. It be here itself, and this f will be the value returned by the function called nearest to num, and I'm passing the variable n over here, and then I'm passing the answer to this. So then I'm incrementing the n value, and here I have to one by one I have to assign the values of f to the array columns, right? So I need a variable to move to the index values. It will be I, and then incrementing the I position. Okay, so now I have to define the function called nearest num to get the nearest the Fibonacci number. So it will be the same n, and then if n is equal to 0 or n is equal to 1, it has to return n. Oops, I got to give the return type as int. Okay. Yeah. So else I'm declaring some variables called f1 is equal to 0, int f2 is equal to 1, or you can also like int f1 equal to f2 is equal to f3 is equal to 0, 1, 1. I guess it pretty much works well. And f3 is less than or equal to n, and we are going to swap f1 and f2 and f3, and then I'm summing up the value on f1 and f2 and storing f3, and finally I'm returning the value f2. Okay, So this is the same logic as we did in Python, so nothing much I change it up. So let us refresh the logic to make it clear. So first I'm just getting the integer n from the user, and I'm passing the integer n to a function called print Fibonacci pattern. This function will actually print this particular pattern. Yeah, this particular pattern, and nearest num function is used to find the nearest Fibonacci number of that particular value. Actually the question is you got to there'll be a number will be given, and you got to represent the number as a sum of Fibonacci numbers such that the numbers are not consecutive and repeated, right? So that is a question. So this will pretty much solve it. Now I have to print the pattern. For that I need to get the length of the array called ans, right? So int len is equal to I. So the I value will be obviously the length. And now I'm going to print the pattern int I is equal to 0, I is lesser than n, and I plus plus. Now there is a scenario called we have to print spaces. So the first row will have 0 spaces, and the second row will have 1 space, and third row will have 2 spaces, right? So int j is equal to 0, j is lesser than I, j plus plus, and here I'm gonna print the space, and outside of this for loop I'm printing the value, that is nothing but ans of I. Yeah, so this pattern will be now reversed, and the I value will be len, and I value will be greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus. The rest thing remains the same. Okay, let us now run this. We'll check whether it's not. Oops, we got some errors. So okay, fine. We just declare it one by one since it's not mapping to these values. And the next error is what? Printf int. Oops, where is the header statement? I got to give it over here. Cover it. Then only it will be comment for things, right? Now it pretty much runs good, right? Now the first test case is 64. We are getting a garbage value. Okay. Why is that so? I is equal to len minus 1. What is it? Yeah. Since I have to iterate to the length, that is the index value will be ranging from 0 to len minus 1, right? I just forgot that thing. Yeah, this is good now. And let us check the second test case. Well, pretty much good, right? So let us now go to the second problem. The second problem is there will be given the rows and columns, and there will be a matrix given. You got to print the product of the xth row into the reverse of the yth row. So x and y rows will be given, right? So let us now jump into the problem. First I'm just giving the header file. And just void main or int main, whatever. Return 0. Now I'm getting the values of R and C. Before that I have to declare R and C, right? R and C, that is rows and columns. Then I'm gonna get the matrix from the user. For that I'm gonna use 2 for loops. For I is equal to 0, I is lesser than R, I plus plus, and for int j is equal to 0, j is lesser than c, j plus plus, and I'm gonna get the input as a of e comma j. So for that I'm gonna declare a two-dimensional array, right? So the two-dimensional array will be like int of a of r comma c. So whatever the rows and columns will be given, we have declare the array as per set, and I'm giving a variable called x and y to get an x and y from the user. That is which two rows I have to print the product, right? So I have to get x and y's values from the user, and I'm getting the x and y value from the user, and now I have to print the product, right? So for this, the column is constant for both the cases. Like the rows will be changed, that is we have x and y rows, but we are considering all the columns, right? So the column is constant, so the for loop iteration will be the column which is the common thing, and here I'm gonna print the product, right? So for this, a of x minus 1 of I into, sorry, it's a, right? Since if it is given x is equal to, it doesn't mean that row is equal to, since index starts from 0, we have to consider as x minus 1, and y minus 1, since I have to consider the reverse one, I have given c minus I minus 1. Okay, so this will give the product of it. I think we are pretty much done, so let us see. Yeah, so let me see the test case. Let us try any one test case. So let's try the first test case. Okay, 4 comma 3, so 4 rows and 3 columns, 3 7 9 4 5 6 4 5 6 1 2 3 7 8 9 1 2 3. Okay, 7 8 9 1 2 3, and x and y values is 2 and 4. Yeah, it is 12 10 and 6, but there is no space, so I have to give a space over here. Now it should run perfect. So you can also run it with your random values. Sorry, you shouldn't give over here, we have to give over here. Okay, so since I am printing over the output over here, I have to give the space in here. Everything's fine, then yeah, you can give your random values, it will work perfect. So if you have any doubts in either of the language, you can reach out to our discussion forum. Thank you.